How do you hack anything? How do you know that these are the right strategies? How many of you actually did this, started with the end game and worked backwards? You know what the front end looks like. All of you have a sense of what class is like and what you have to read, even before I showed the dumb piles of books and brainy Smurf. But how many of you knew what the end game was, what it looked like, what it's asking? So I don't play chess, and I think my kids took like a lesson or two. But my understanding is really hardcore chess instruction starts with the end game. How do you beat, how does king and pawn beat king? How do you actually finish off and win the game? Outside of chess and inside the law school context, the final exam is the end game. It is a complete end game given that most of the time it's 100% of your grade. What follows from that is then to ask, what skills do I need to develop to do well on that exam? And then your day-to-day entire semester planning is all based on the question, is the work that I'm doing going to help me develop those skills? Those are the questions I think you need to ask yourself. And be critical in asking that of all of the activities that you engage in law school. So let's do the short version of this. What do you need to answer an exam question to get A's? Well, you need to start with legal knowledge, which is understanding the black letter law, not the dumb case details. One of the kind of classic ones that is the very beginning of the paper chase is Hawkins versus McGee. It's about somebody who was supposed to get a hair transplant or a skin transplant to fix like a burned hand, the hand burned by an electrical fire. And then the dude ends up getting like a hairy hand instead because skin from a hairy area of his body got transplanted. And so you can get into all kinds of details, but at the end of the day, that's a case about expectation damages. It's the theory, it's the theory of recovery in most contract cases that did you get the benefit of the bargain? And in that case, there was all kinds of pain and it's a very strange case. And I'm spending a second on it because it's good for you to know what the difference is between black letter law and case details. In that case, damages were also sought for just kind of the pain and suffering of the transplant. The case ultimately says that that's not part of the damages calculation. The plaintiff wins because he didn't get the kind of non-hairy hand he'd been promised, but pain and suffering would have been part, you're cutting skin, so pain and suffering would have been part of any procedure, even if you've gotten exactly what you'd asked for. So what you can ask for is damages because your hand is hairy, not because the procedure hurt. Why do I say that? When you watch the paper chase, they talk a lot about the various details and the way that it got appealed at different levels from the trial court to the appellate level. But at the end of the day, it's the black letter law is the theory of expectation damages and what is and it isn't included in what you can recover when there's a breach of that contract. So you need to know this black letter law. Knowing that, that the guy had a damaged skin because of an electrical, I think he touched an electrical outlet or something like that. Those are the kinds of things that the professor will ask you about in class and that will seem hyper important in the moment. On the exam, they are not important. That's got to be the foundation, that you have legal knowledge. Then you've got to be able to use that legal knowledge to spot and analyze issues. So you'll have a different case that does not involve surgery and does not involve a hairy hand. Can you apply those facts? Can you use that knowledge to actually spot an issue? Notice what happens, and this is one of the big shifts that professors don't identify. Just because you can read and pick apart a case does not mean that you have the skill of knowing how to take this abstract rule from Hawkins versus McGee, and find that in a case that's in a context that is totally different. That is, it's like the inverse. I mean, one example of this is you do vocabulary cards in a foreign language class, and I've failed at speaking very well several foreign languages, but it's like you only studied the English to the German to English. Like if you see the German, you know what the English is, but on the spot, right? Let's just stop for a second. Think about that. If you see the German, you know what the English is. Great. But when you're in a place where what's required isn't just translating from the German, but you have to speak German, that is a totally different skill. And I think that's the inversion that takes place between what is kind of just passively taking in a case and being able to apply it. So that's the first. You need the legal knowledge. You need to be able to use that legal knowledge to spot and analyze issues. And then you have to do so in a way that convinces your professor that you're better at this than most of your peers. So to me, this is the overall strategy, to focus on the things that advance these three strategies, and to generally try to avoid the things that don't advance your ability to either build up your legal knowledge, develop the skill to use that legal knowledge to spot and analyze issues, and to do so in a way that's better than your peers.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them, and feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.